Hello, dear viewers. This is Obscura Atlas 1959. In the icy wilderness of the Ural Mountains, 9 young hikers set out on an expedition. They were all experienced, skilled mountaineers, but this journey would be their last. When searchers finally discovered their camp weeks later, the scene was shocking. Their tent stood abandoned, half buried in snow, and it had been ripped open from the inside. Bare footprints led away into the frozen darkness. And when the bodies were found, the explanations only grew stranger. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass incident, one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. The group was led by a 23-year-old student named Igor Dyatlov. Alongside him were 8 fellow hikers, men and women in their 20s, all highly skilled and physically fit. They were students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Their goal was to ski across the mountains to reach Mount Otorten, a remote peak in the northern Urals. To get there, they had to pass through a mountain known by the local indigenous Mansi people as Kholat Syakh. The name means dead mountain. In the days leading up to their disappearance, the hikers kept detailed diaries and took photographs. These records show a group full of energy and optimism, laughing, skiing, and preparing meals in the snow. They had faced harsh weather before, and this expedition was no different. For them, it was another challenge to conquer. But by early February, the hikers stopped sending any messages. They were expected back by February 12. Days passed. There was no sign of them. Families grew worried, and soon, search parties were dispatched into the frozen wilderness. On February 26, rescuers finally located the campsite. What they found would become the foundation of a mystery still unsolved today. The hiker's tent was discovered on the slope of Kholat Syakh. It was half collapsed and covered in snow. But the most disturbing detail was this: the tent had been cut open from the inside. Not unzipped, not torn by wind or snow, but deliberately slashed, as though the hikers had clawed their way out in a desperate hurry. Footprints led away from the tent. Some were barefoot. Others showed only socks. A few had just one shoe. All of them pointed down the slope, away from shelter, into the freezing night. Within days, the first bodies were found near the edge of the forest. 2 hikers lay side by side beneath a cedar tree. They wore almost no clothing, and their bodies showed signs of burns, possibly from a small fire they had tried to build to stay alive. 3 more were discovered between the forest and the tent, as though they had tried to crawl back toward safety. The remaining 4 hikers were not found until the spring thaw, buried beneath several feet of snow in a ravine, and their condition was far more unusual. Some hikers had simply frozen to death, but others had injuries that seemed impossible to explain. One had a fractured skull, another had multiple broken ribs, injuries similar to those from a high-speed car crash. Yet there were no external wounds, no bruises, no cuts, just catastrophic internal damage. One woman was missing her tongue, her eyes, and parts of her facial tissue. Whether this happened before death or was the result of decomposition in the snow remains debated. Even stranger, traces of radiation were detected on some of the clothing. Where did it come from? No one could say. The Soviet investigation dragged on for months. In May 1959, the case was closed with a vague and haunting statement. The hikers died due to, quote, an unknown compelling force. The files were classified, rumors spread, and the Dyatlov Pass incident passed into legend. Over the decades, dozens of theories have been proposed. The most straightforward explanation is an avalanche. If a wall of snow crashed onto the tent, the hikers might have slashed it open in panic and fled. But critics argue the slope was too shallow, and evidence of an avalanche was never found. Others suggest secret military tests. The Ural Mountains were known for weapons experiments, and some believe the hikers stumbled upon parachute mines or chemical agents. The radiation traces seem to support this idea. Some claim it was a KGB cover-up, that the hikers saw something they weren't supposed to and paid the price. Still more far-fetched theories include UFOs, aliens, or strange sound phenomena called infrasound low-frequency vibrations that can cause panic and disorientation in humans. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case. Their official conclusion: the hikers died in a slab avalanche. a smaller, delayed snowslide that could explain the injuries. But many experts remain unconvinced. The missing tongue, the radiation, the bizarre condition of the bodies, these details don't quite fit. And so, more than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass mystery lives on. Today, Dyatlov Pass has become a symbol of the unknown. The area is now visited by tourists, and a monument stands in memory of the 9 young hikers who lost their lives there. But despite all the investigations, despite modern science and computer models, the truth remains elusive. What exactly drove 9 skilled mountaineers to flee their tent into a deadly snowstorm? Why did some suffer massive internal injuries while others froze in the forest? And what about the radiation? The mountain is still called Dead Mountain. And perhaps, fittingly, it continues to keep its secrets. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains unsolved. A chilling reminder of how fragile human life can be and how mysterious nature, and perhaps the universe itself, truly is. So, what do you think happened on that freezing night in 1959? Was it an avalanche, a military cover-up, or something far stranger? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of history's strangest mysteries. Because sometimes, the scariest part of history is what we'll never understand.